And hello, welcome to Band of Badgers. I am Dave, your host for this session, and joining us on this Q&A, our Q&A guests are Mario Martino and Alex Parson. How are you both doing?
Hi, doing good. How are you?
Hello,
I'm good. I'm well fed. It's 7 o'clock in the evening here in the UK. You two are both in different time zones. Well,
Yes,
where are
yes.
you both?
I'm in the Midwest of America, so it is currently 1 o'clock here. And Mario, you're on the West Coast,
yes, I am on the West Coast.
so he's sitting at 11. He lives in the past or in the future. I don't
Yeah,
know the past yet. So
and we're well in the future, which is good
well,
to
in the
know.
future.
So, if you don't already know, Mario and Alex are the founders of Mats by Mars, which is a fantastic, let me get this right, it's kind of like a design and print tabletop mats for various environments across all manner of games. This is not just D&D or role-playing games, but Warhammer and all kinds of tabletop war games and all kinds of things. We've got a selection of stuff for you to see anyway, and we'll get into that in a bit. Now, joining me, as always, is co-host Steve. Steve, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Yep, I'm great.
He's great. That's good. Fair enough. So if you are watching this on live, if you have any questions for the guys, do let us know in chat. We're sending out reminders we'll be doing this for the next hour. So we'll be sending out reminders and stuff of what you can just how you kind of pose your question. If either Mario or Alex sees your question and are desperate to answer it, they can. Okay, so we're just going to do that. Now, for those of you who don't know, as Band of Badgers, we support writers, artists, designers, and creators all across the world, across our various shows as well. So we have things like guest player spots, guest GM spots. We do these kind of Q&As. We also do product unboxings. And it's kind of like nice to kind of do this for the community and get people involved. So if you like our stuff, you can find all of it on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/bandofbadgers. And if you would like to support us in return, we are in all the usual places. We have Twitch subs, Patreon, merchandise, and even an Amazon wish list because Christmas is coming around the corner and there's lots of containers stuck on boats somewhere. So better, you got to start planning, I think, all your presents now. If you want to buy a present, no matter the occasion, I think you got to start planning it now. Anyway, with that out of the way, we can concentrate on talking about Match by Mars. So first of all, guys, welcome. Hello again.
Hey.
Mario, Alex, how did this team up begin? Why maps on mats? And how comes it's Mats by Mars? Go.
Want me to start, Alex?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right, so the name Mats by Mars was I had a nickname in high school. Australians apparently like to shorten names. Since my name is Mario, they either call me Mazza or Mars. And kind of just stick to me. And I haven't used it when I moved over to America. And then I wanted to have, and I had a YouTube channel at that point when I was, I don't know, probably about 8, 7 years ago. And I wanted to create like a persona name, and I kind of like the name Mars, and like my favorite chocolate bar is the Mars bar.
Yeah.
So it kind of stuck with me. I wanted to use it, and then at one point I was playing a lot of Malifaux, and this was 1.5 edition, and I keep seeing, mats from different companies, or sometimes people make it like, they're homemade mats with textures and stuff. And I'm like, wait, I can probably do this myself. But at the same time, I was playing Malifaux League over online using Vassal, and I met Alex through there. But I also met Alex through
Yeah, there was a bit of a interesting start there where I tend to be kind of a whole ass individual. Like there's no half or half. It's all or nothing. And there's a con in Chicago called Adepticon, which very very well attended and fun. Total tabletop wargaming. That's
Mhm.
it. These are your people, not really RPGs, not really board games, none of that. It's mostly 98% tabletop war games. And so I was playing Malifaux, having just moved from like having kids and whatnot, so I could no longer afford my 40K addiction. And I was like, all right, so on a reduced budget and reduced time, stepping away from my Tyranid army, what can I play? And Malifaux was out at that time, and it was like, here's 10 models for $50 and you're in. I'm like, good. So I fully hard commit to that. I go to Adepticon, and long story shorter, there is a prize that Mario is actually a very accomplished painter. He probably won't mention that, but it's how I ended up meeting him. And he offered his services as a prize for the Malifaux room, one of the events. And so I ended up winning that. In Malifaux, you have a crew of people that comes in the core box, and it's like 5 dudes. And he's like, I will paint a core box of dudes. And I was like, well, normally you need, up to 10 dudes. And so I'm like, can we maybe negotiate something so I don't have like these amazing painted models and then like a couple more guys that look like they've been accosted with a paint roller? And so I'm like, all right. So we negotiate that, and he's a cool guy. And so I send him all the models, and I don't hear from him for a while. It takes him about a year to paint my models, but it's okay. We don't need to talk about that. And we reunite while he still has these models to paint in this Vassal League. And so he's got his YouTube channel. We end up getting paired against each other in like one of the first rounds. And that video is still out there. And that game, let's just say it doesn't go well for Mario.
He's the first person to 10-0 me.
Yeah. So I shut him out. And then we found out, because he was like, hey, do you mind if we stream it? That evidently I cheated because I didn't have a rule right. And so because we had it all on video, it's like, well, you want to just like retcon it and go back and like start at that spot because we know exactly where everything was. And so we did. And so through that whole process, it ended up being really kind of a good friendship moment kind of start. And it kind of grew from there. And I'd always, needle him about the models until they eventually showed up. And so he eventually shows me his mat design that he comes up with. And he sends it to me on Facebook. And it's just like, hey, what do you think of this? And I was like, it looks good. And he's just like, yeah, there's a lot of people that also agree. I think I want to sell it. And he's like, how am I going to do this? And I was like, sounds like somebody needs a partner who's good with numbers. Long pause. And then, that was basically the start of it. And we didn't actually meet face to face for, I think, a year and a half or 2 years of being in business with one another.
Yep.
And so just growing from that very meager, like we farmed out and just kind of outsourced some of our early like printing jobs. And then I was like, no, we can do this ourselves. And then it just grew from there. And here we are, year 7. Something like that. We've got a couple of printers, a lot of work and a lot of fun. And it's really exciting to kind of be at this point where COVID's ending. And, big thing for us has always been the cons to get together with other makers and both the community that wants to consume our product and then the people who really want to like create and put out into that community, because kind of as you hinted in the beginning, we're pretty much print on demand and like print to order. So you go out, you pick one of our designs if you like them, pick a size, and then if you want an overlay like an RPG grid, a like 1-inch grid, or like one of the things we infected, if you will, the Malifaux community with is with the overlays with deployment zones and victory conditions. And so if your game allows pre-measuring, you can then like just look at the mat and know, oh, this model's scoring, this model's not. Like there's all kinds of things that now you don't have to have Captain Floppy Ruler out there like, oh, yeah, that looks like he's in, or, something like that. And it all works out. So if there's a need, or if there's a game that gets less representation because it's not huge, and they're like, I need a 29 centimeter by 35 foot mat. Okay, cool, we got you. We can custom print that. And so that's really where we've kind of slotted into the game space of what do you want? And then if you like are like, oh, I want this custom mat for my RPG. and I want you to blend like maybe these two mats together. Or we've even had, a great relationship with like Critical Role in that, hey, they've had a couple of our custom mats as very big pivotal battles for them because, it's like there's no product on the market. Can we make it? And then you can get it in our really cool vinyl material that is going to last and it's going to stand up and it's not just something you made off your printer. Paper printer at home.
So you mentioned Critical Role, and that is a massive name to have been a part of. How many maps have been featured? Do you know how many maps has Matt and the team done? Did you send the bundle and then they just reuse?
There is actually a website. Our friend Andrew actually is a host of all the merchandise, all anything related to Critical Role, that the products that Critical Role uses on every episode. So he does have a list, but if I remember correctly, they started using our mat in season 1 when they fought I forgot the name, the white dragon, Wargal.
I think that's right.
Yeah, Wargal. That was our Frozen Lake mat, and
they were all frozen in front of the
that was an epic moment for us because we were like, yep, like this is it. This is high point of a nerd's life where something.
And it was kind of small back then. It was really cool to just kind of be a part and that I think it kind of illustrated how like the mats can just come out on a moment. Like a lot of our stuff is pretty generic. It's a lot, or I don't mean generic as in like not detailed. I mean in that it doesn't commit you to this is the dungeon layout that has to be this way. Yep. It's that, okay, style it how you want and it can fit whatever situation you have. So I know that the cast has and Matt and others have a lot, and we like to support lots of streams, not just big name streams. So if you've got a game that you're trying to put out there, you're like, we love to talk to you because being able to put stuff on the table that looks good and works for streamers is really fun, and we get a charge whenever we're in the wild at our local game store or we see it on the stream and it's like, oh, that's our logo. So it's kind of a good thing. Being able to adapt our we've got 60 some odd designs that work for like RPGs. And so considering you can both use them stock and then mash them up with something else you want or bring in your own elements, it's really a fun time.
So you mentioned sort of like custom bits and pieces and putting things back together. So Mario, you are the design brain and Alex is the print brain. Yes. What's the design process? How do you start doing this? Because a lot of these, there is nothing. I say they're generic maps, but there's nothing generic about them. Everything, it's not like the same thing everywhere. You've really kind of positioned things, or at least they seem to be positioned things. I want you to know.
One of the things that, at least, I mean, obviously the process starts from the design first before printing. One of the things that I like to do before was actually going into the local community or even conventions. That's why we love Adepticon, because that's a time where I get to socialize and talk to people about, hey, what do you think it's going to be great? Or like, oh, that game is getting popular. Maybe we should design something off of it. And I also try to put myself in situations where a lot of, like in a lot of different social Facebook groups, like Marvel Crisis Protocol groups and D&D groups and stuff like that, just to, I guess, I wouldn't say stalk, but just lurk and see what people are trying to get. But a lot of it mostly is just from my personal experience. Like, for example, the design that Alex forementioned earlier, before the stream start, the design that he doesn't like, but I love it, and I have a trained piece of it. And I think you have it in one of your the screen that just keeps scrolling, the mushroom forest.
Yeah.
Just all the bright colors, but then mostly the print is close to just dark. I like to represent that as Feywild. And you can just use aquarium terrains, and so those are kind of like the design ideas that I want to do. Obviously, in the beginning, we were playing a lot of Malifaux more, so a lot of the designs are pushed towards like the Badlands, like the desert. But then we started realizing, okay, If we're gonna branch this out, we're gonna start needing like snow. We're gonna need some grassy area. We're gonna need like abandoned city, and like beaches and as we get more and more into tabletop RPG stuff, we're like, all right, we're gonna have to push our stuff towards a lot more like terrestrial things.
Yeah, all bets are off then. And kind of that design, to build on that design thought, is a lot of times we'll have communities or active players in a community say, hey, I hear you do custom stuff. Have you ever heard of this game?
Yeah.
And we ask them, oh, no, we haven't. Can you give us a list of stuff that is important to you and your community? And then we'll work with that person in order to make something for them. And yeah, they'll get a nice free map for their troubles of going through our many a question. But it's just like, that's what helps keep us on top of, because we can't be everywhere. We've got lives and stuff, but we find about a new opportunity and we want to put something out there for them. And, then Mario and I talk it over and he puts something together and we just
go back. One of the I'm gonna put it in quotes, consultants that we have. One of the consultants that we have is actually the creator of the first edition Malifaux.
Very nice.
Yeah. We became good friends, and whenever he's always up for like, oh, new shiny, like new game every single time. He's the one's like, hey, this game's good. This game is good. And then he gives me ideas and he gives me reference points on like what deployment zones that I need, what objectives where I need to put it and stuff like that for the overlays.
So you mentioned Malifaux, the creator of Malifaux. What about various other contract work you've done? Because Mats by Mars, in terms of the website, is straight to consumer, and you're taking custom pieces from that audience as well. Have companies come to you and say, we want you to design our maps for our products?
One of the companies that we work with, I think this company was the game was previously owned by a different company, by Hawk War Games.
Okay.
And then now they're owned by somebody else. I forgot the name, but they gave us the rights to print their designs. And we just added the overlay on the side of the game rule for Drop Zone Commander or Drop Zone.
It's TT Combat, but yeah. So like, a lot of times people don't want to. We've had people try and bring mats into their game and then sell them to their customers, and they're like, wow, we've got a box game with minis, and then we have this rolled up mat that we want to ship, and you either ship something that looks like a vacuum cleaner or you're like in a really weird space. So a lot of times we end up doing license work with other companies because mats are just kind of awkward to nest in with other products. And that kind of license work is really fulfilling because one, it takes the load off of the company that is trying to just get a nice, stable, reproducible product for their players to game on, at the same time as not having to manage it themselves. And so we've done things with Brotherwise, we've done things which they make Boss Monster, and a couple other really good games lately. Like Call to Adventure, if you've heard that one's a lot of fun. But we've done work with Bushido, or Bushido being GCT games, and so games that don't really know how to address the problem of their play space, like outside of I put masking tape on my tabletop and that's where we're playing. If they want something thematic, we love to work with those guys and then put a product out to the world. And we don't care about international shipping, production time, stuff like that. I mean, I can do large orders. It's not a big deal if that's what someone wants. But the print on demand really liberates us to do pert near anything a creator might want. And so that's been fun, especially in the realm of demo boards, is what Mario was kind of hitting on. We've got some games that are so complex that in order to take it to a con and hit someone with a demo and really get them to love it, we've put the game aid borders on some games where you have like very necessary rules that are accessible right there on their demo mat, and then they're off to the races with a better experience for the con goer or for their organized play participant to really present it to their target market. And so on the one hand, or if you're at home and you might have had a couple drinks and you can't remember what a 6 means on your die, it's like, oh, all right, there we go, we're good. Yeah, as far as licensing work, like if there's an idea that pops into someone's head and they're like, wow, is someone out there going to do it? That's the fun of this.
So we've got I mean, there's things going on in chat that I've noticed, but we've got you've sent a selection over. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch the scenes around so we can have a closer look. If you just basically talk us through what we've got here, and if I can turn it on. No, it doesn't seem to work right now. Steve, I'm going to hand it over to you while I go and sort out the camera. It's not
if we go back to talking about the design process, what are you developing the images on? What software are you using? Because we did talk before about Incarnate as well.
The Adobe stuff mostly for me, but we had customers where they work on Incarnate, and then they just send over the file to us. We worked with other designers before too, where basically they just send us their designs and their file is already set to go, and then set up according to our benchmark for before printing too. So
you're pretty much set up to take any image that somebody would want on a map,
right,
print on demand, and then can ship it anywhere.
Yeah.
So if somebody
and technically,
sorry, go on.
So, and technically, we're not limited to just war games. I mean, the mats too. We can basically print. Hey, we have an Easter event coming up soon. We can do that too.
Yeah. And like for events, like if you have an event coming up, like let's say Blood Bowl's really big. Like I didn't even know what Blood Bowl 7s was. And then a customer wrote in and was like, oh, do you support like a Blood Bowl 7s? And we had to go figure out what those rules are. But like if an event comes up, like we can do banners too. Like there's no reason we stop at just the war game. So if you need a banner for your event, like that, and you want a whole package that looks good, those things can be all nested together with an email. So yeah.
So going about contacting you, is that through your online shop, or you got a Facebook page? You wanna
we're on Facebook, Instagram, and then you can always just email info@matsbymars.com. It'll come directly to me usually.
More often than not. I am much more chaotic when it comes to my email response. So I definitely put Mario square in that seat, and then he is relentless in badgering me about, oh, hey, what about this, that, and the other thing. And so anyone who is trying to get in touch or whatnot, definitely don't feel bad about, poking and prodding. It's necessary at times. So keep up the good work.
Right, this camera should be working now. Let's give this a go. There we go. It's on. So you'll see that the guys are also watching part of this live as well. So we've got I've got a camera arm here just to kind of capture what is going on, and you can see some of the detail that's in these maps. I've got to wait for it to catch up. Let's see if that does. There we go. I mean, those are 1-inch squares with individual leaves.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's some people are always concerned about, well, what kind of resolution can you get with, your process? And it's like, it is, we go to 200. Well, I'll let you talk about specs. That's more your area, Mario.
We prefer 200 DPI minimum for the resolution. We prefer. But a lot of our customers, for example, for the Blood Bowl mats, it's like they send logos off of the internet, and it's like, files like this tiny. And sometimes I gotta make an extra effort for their customization. But yeah, we prefer 200 DPI PNG or JPEG or TIFF. But we can, if you have a 1200 DPI file, better know how to transfer it.
So we've also got...
We've actually had a question from chat.
Yeah,
sorry.
I see that.
So it's 2. I'll just read it out.
Okay.
So what's the average print time? And also, I assume it can be rolled up for storage. So I guess Dave can demo that one for us physically.
Sure. So average print time, as I said, everything is, print on demand. So there's a little flexibility there, depending on what people are ordering what and when. If we get slammed for some reason for a week, it might be a little more time than otherwise. But really, we generally like to have things shipped within 4 or 5 days. Things need to print, and then the ink needs to cure, and then everything kind of comes to a very stable space. So you should see a tracking notification within the week is a good conservative number. Sometimes it'll be in a day or 2, but if we're setting expectations, that's kind of what we like to do. As far as rolling it up, we actually suggest you do the opposite of what Dave did. And that roll it image side out. So one of the things that people have complained about vinyl in the past, that our material is a little different, is that they're like, oh, I don't want to scratch the surface because it's so fragile. And so our image is much more robust than products people have tried in the past. And so you roll it image side out, and then the second follow-up is, oh, but vinyl curls. And what this ends up being is actually your mat hanging on to the residual curl of the factory roll, like the big roll that the media is delivered on. And so once that relaxes, your mat will be flat eternally. But until then, you roll it image side out, and that slight bit of curl on the edges actually pushes down into the tabletop, and that actually means that the mat will lay flat from day one.
Let the mat hug your table.
Yeah. And so the year after year thing here, we got the good fortune of seeing our mats on tables at Adepticon for a long time, and they eventually are just absolutely sheet paper flat. Definitely put that curling problem to rest.
Unfortunately, we do not recommend double-sided prints.
Oh.
Yeah.
It can be done. And this is me tipping my hand. Yes, it can be done. It's not going to save you any money, and it's going to probably increase production time because with our process, it has to be manually lined up. And then because I'm a highly analytical person and I like things to be very accurate, it also has to, that lineup process has to be right. And so it generally puts your mat kind of at the back of the queue. And since it's not saving you really any money to get 2 mats, and these are less than a millimeter thick, I think barely less than a millimeter thick, having 2 mats that you roll up, what's that space savings for you really? So that's kind of the thought, is just get 2 mats. It'll be the same cost, and you'll get your mat faster and probably be happier with it.
And in case if anyone hasn't picked it up yet, we do not hold any stock. We print every single mat, and then everything is cut by hand by Alex. So
I have touched every one of your mats. All of you. We love you.
And talking about material, you was talking earlier about the the durability, and then the cleaning, and particularly the wet erase dry erase argument. Do you want to talk about that as well? Particularly how you clean your own mats, which I found quite amusing.
So starting at the beginning, not everyone really sees the difference between a wet erase and a dry erase mat. Dry erase mats have a solvent involved in them that will actually damage your mat by Mars. So we are very wet erase compatible. That is, Crayola markers are actually good on our new material. You can get a brand called Vis-a-Vis, VIS-A-VIS, that is wet erase and also very good. Those are ones that you could also use on your, say, old school Chesic ones or whatnot. Do not use dry erase, do not use chalk markers, stuff like that. But when you use a wet erase marker that's appropriate, I actually just hold my mat up in the shower and just let the water rinse the entire adventure away, and it's ready to go for the next time. It works out really well. There's actually a very low occurrence of burn-in, especially with the Crayola stuff. I like the Crayola Max. They're like $3 for a box of every color, and it's like, okay, instead of buying, even then with, if you were gonna get the wrong marker type, those are gonna be more expensive. So just go get yourself some Crayolas. But yeah, as far as the material goes, the material is also as being wet erase compatible, it also doesn't soak up spilled drinks or beer, or it is drink resilient. So if you do spill something, your image isn't going to wipe away. Just stay away from harsh solvents. I've used, if you do make a mistake, and they do happen, where someone, say, throws a dry erase in the bag, or you might get a permanent marker or something like that, it's not going to completely come out, but I have used denatured alcohol in order to take maybe the sting off of some of it. You will wear away some of the top layer of some of the ink in your image, but it won't take it straight to white unless you hit harsh things like acetone or paint thinner, etc. So a little denatured will help you get a little bit of burn-in out, but be sparing, and it will take away some of your image, so just be aware.
Have you done a number of testing like that? Because drinks around the gaming table is common. It is one of the top 3 ways to kill your DM. Is the Coke, the beer, the wine, the water, the drinks, whatever it is, any kind of soda, when it goes on a map or a handout or an artifact or anywhere, you see the DM jump up and scream, which probably inadvertently will flash up the table at the same time. Minis going everywhere. It is havoc and chaos.
Rocks fall, everyone dies. Yes,
drinks on everyone.
There has been many drinking excursions that have tested our mats purely in the name of science. I have actually done a lot of testing on the material itself. I come from a chemistry and science background, and so coming at things with, okay, what's the use experience a lot of people are going to see. A lot of people are worried about like the folding too, so like put something under 100-pound weight for a week and then try to revive it, and like, so the material is impressive from my very biased opinion, but like it will bounce back from almost all the damage you put on it outside of heavy solvents. So
Gislado in live chat mentioned something quite interesting, and I kind of agree. You've got a mixture of vinyl mats over neoprene. Now I use neoprene. I've got a giant oversized mouse mat on my desk which is neoprene based. I have a gaming table with a neoprene mat.
I've got 2 here as well, actually.
Yeah, and then you've got like my boy who's 6. He's just got into Pokemon, and Pokemon. He's got the Battle Academy, which is a cardboard layout arena. But things like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon tournaments and stuff, you see players with those neoprene mats you buy yourself. But you mentioned you do custom jobs and you can do kind of layout zones, so you potentially could do a vinyl mat with a Pokemon theme with all the layouts. So this is my bin. Here's my deck. Here's my hand. Here's my row. I'm still learning Pokemon. He's teaching me how to play. So I don't know all the terms.
That's a grass type.
Yeah, exactly. I had that today. So but this is, I mean, it takes up 0 space. Right. I'm going to flip back to the other camera as well, because we've got a variety to talk about as well. They take up no space. I mean, and you can even fold these as well. You don't have to kind of roll them up. They can be folded, shoved into a backpack, and they just lay flat. They just ooze out. So I've been really kind of, I didn't know what to expect with this quality of vinyl. And I'm amazed. I've got, we use a lot of Beadle and Grim products, and we have to use paperweights and everything else to stop them kind of bowing, or a sheet of Perspex over the top. This just kind of, it's like an ooze. It just goes, it just relaxes. It's like, I'm on a table.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's it.
One of the things that doesn't really come up that often, but we got some complaints about it, and this is part why I am like extremely grateful for Alex for finding this particular material, is that mat has 0 shine on it. A lot of streamers and a lot of people who plays at the game store does not like, oh, vinyl is reflective, blah blah blah, and we're like, all right, fine, we have we found a material that has zero shine on it, and basically because we're players of the game itself, and we want to make sure that we're having a good time while playing it, right? So the R&D that Alex does is just like he wants to make sure that all the complaints are eliminated one by one.
Well, I'm also very, self-serving in that case. I want a product that I want. So,
yeah.
And to speak on the neoprene thing, this is something I answer, and like everything has its place, and I don't ever want to like poo-poo on neoprene. Like there are people who just prefer it, and that's fine. We do like your card game example here is totally relevant because Boss Monster is a card game, and so we do have a available product that you miss out on that little bit of deflection from being able to get under the card, but I mean it's not that bad. The plus side of vinyl here is it doesn't stretch, and because of the way neoprene is created, it has a little bit of an accuracy problem when it comes to how large your play space is going to be. So if you're very picky that like your 3x3 or your 4x6 needs to be 4x6, not 4x6.5, we can guarantee that because the vinyl doesn't stretch, and so that is a plus that like if that's important to you. I mean, some people could care less, like whatever. And so, but that is something we can do that maybe others can't. We also, as far as long term, I know that some places, depending on the region of the world you're at, sometimes the adhesives in neoprene end up coming a little bit detached, or it frays on a corner, or it soaks up a beer, or stuff like that. And that's stuff that just by inherently being vinyl, you don't have to really address. And so, little things that back and forth, like there is a pro and a space for each technology, and I think that ours suits really well for both the RPG and the tabletop gaming community more than others.
As far as also when you've cut that, I mean, with the neoprene, you have to make sure that it's cut and the cloth finish is nicely done. Also with the vinyl, it's a cut. Do you treat the cut in any way, or is it just a cut and ship?
I mean, I have to use a really sharp blade for it because as the blade dulls, like you can see a little bit of fraying or something like that. So that's just more on me. But by this point, I've done thousands. So it's just one of those. If you do need to cut or alter, or like you get it home and it like, oh, I want to put it in my table or something, and my table is a 1/4 inch short, and you need to go do it, I suggest like titanium scissors, like DuraShear kind of super sharp thing. Most people don't have a 4x8 cutting table with like where they can take a razor blade to it in a nice, clean, straight way, but that is how I cut it by hand. Basically, is I have a ruler, I have a razor blade, and I do it by hand that way. Other scissors will work, but
it's Alex's subtle way of saying it's not the tool, it's him.
Well, it is also very much the tool. The tool is very important because you will, if you cut it with like something that's not if it's not razor sharp, you will get kind of this mangled, because it's resilient. It will fight you because that's what we want. We want a product that doesn't fall apart.
I was just looking at Caslado in live chat. Yeah, adamantium or vibranium is also appropriate for cutting. Yes, these are extremely cool maps. Now let's go back to the maps themselves.
Sure.
Mario and Alex, in Zoom, you can pin the little map cam or the mini cam, and then we can have a look. So we've been looking at the beach, and I also run Ghost of Saltmarsh. This is absolutely perfect for any of those.
That beach actually has a interesting story why it became like that.
Go for it. It's beautiful. I mean, the colouring on this as well.
So, given the proximity of where I live, I got a text message from Matt Mercer. He was like, "Hey, I need a beach map." So I was like, "All right, I can put something together." And that's actually 3 of our designs together. So originally that map was supposed to be an exclusive map for him.
Wow.
And then we've got messages and messages and messages. Where can we get that map? So I'm like, okay, I guess we have to release this. And then we have to increase it to a 4x6. So originally we only had, just the water or just that sandy part or just that grassy area is from the Forgotten Temple part.
Yeah. And it grows into actually one of our, we do RPG packs that save you guys a little bit of money. That are 3 like mats that go well together, and that one goes from water to beach to a jungly type scenario that if you lay them all side by side, they seamlessly pass from one to the other. So we like to do things like that, and if we like to take suggestions as far as what people want to see in a pack like that.
Now that I didn't know, that I haven't tried. I will try that later. I haven't got space in here while we're on air, but I will lay that out and I'll get a photo.
We're waiting for someone that's gonna order like a 24 inches by 150 foot and just never ending dungeon.
Do you want to do a small continent? A small continent is what you need.
Right.
Or a small island. Oh, deserted island. There you go.
Yeah, that one's Treasure Beach for anyone interested. That's the name of that one.
It is nice. And again, we're not sure how much the camera picks up, but there are also details in the sand. You've got contours and shading. It's beautiful. It is really, really nice. And so the sizes that Matt's by Mars sent me is 24 by 24. It's a nice big square. You won't be able to see it on my mini cam, but there we go. But really manageable size. And that is a lot of space for minis as well. So let me just, I'll literally just fold it down. Let me just grab some minis. There we go. And you can see how much detail is in some of these. I mean, you got the brickwork. They are really, really nice.
Yeah, this one's actually one of our most popular ones. It's called Abandoned City. This is actually the second version of it. We have the first version, which was, I think, the 7th mat that Mario ever designed. We noticed after a while that as like our craft grew, that we had detail that was really increasing. And then we'd put a couple mats together and it was like, oh, that one's kind of fallen behind. So every once in a while, we'll need to update a mat in order to get to this detail level once like the whole catalog kind of moved that direction. So this is the version 2 of it that really takes it into HD. And
it is lovely. And I like you say, it's the hidden ancient city. It is lovely. It's just overgrown with these different colors of flora and fauna.
Yeah, the idea behind that is my number 1 absolute favorite game is Bornheim.
So. It is nice. And then so let's just have a look through these. So we have some cobblestone floors, which are always good because we never get enough. And again, this is where. So we were talking about this before we kind of went on air. Is things like terrain. Now, if you have dungeon terrain or trees, barrels, anything that kind of breaks a field of view, and you can create your own custom walls, anything you need. Straight away there's a broken wall between there and there. You got a gateway. You've got something you can throw in quite easily with where the players need to go, and I love that. And just having that kind of that available space is brilliant. And as you said, with your Crayola pens, you can draw any scenery, any extras that you need to have.
Yeah, and especially if you have a 3D printer or like you know someone, or you can get like Battlefield in a Box stuff and just accent, or as Mario said, like aquarium plants for a jungle. It works amazingly well on a budget, and so having the backdrop that gives you that kind of immersive flexibility, it feels good, and like it kind of gets addictive because they're like at the 2x2 range, our mats are only like $17, and so like for that much for a reusable product that you can use week to week, and if you just did a baseline of a couple of them, and we also have a generic like that isn't. It looks kind of like parchment or something like that as kind of your blank background if you prefer that kind of open feel instead. Plus 1 map of adventure, like you can really just reuse them or get something tailored for your week.
Right, what else we got in here? We got a nice selection of different environments.
I was going to ask if you had the lava one.
It's like you said Plane of Fire, so I figured you need that one.
So I have some Northern Force terrain, and one of the bits I bought was one of their floor tiles.
Okay.
Because I have sort of the dungeon decoration pieces. I have a lava bridge and lava waterfall and stuff like that, and it's great and it all lights up. And we played it in our Starfinder game earlier, like a forge type area.
Okay.
But that's too small. So by the time you've put the bits on, a 12 by 12 is too small. So I propped up on the table on mats and stuff like that to fill in the blank spaces. But your standard size, I think you called it, was your 2 foot by 2 foot, 24 by 24. It's double the size of this, and it's great. You've got the grid. You've got an awesome background image that's in HD, and you can just place all your terrain pieces on. You can pull terrain pieces from anywhere. We talked about Dungeons and Lasers, we talked about Dawn Forge, and you very quickly can have something in front of your players that looks absolutely impressive, whether we're playing online or at a table. And I think that's great. Yeah, and as you're saying, you can have custom sizes, you can have custom images. I mean, I could open up one of the Pathfinder Adventures if I wanted, get the PDF map from the Pathfinder Adventure, ask you to print that for me, use that as a background, and just put dungeon dressing on it. And that, I think, is like where you take your game for the next level in terms of physical tabletop, which I really like, and I know Dave really likes as well. So that's one of my favourite maps, and as we were talking before we came on stream, the desert one as well is awesome. Really like those.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's the surprising part. That surprised even me, especially as I started my post-COVID personal D&D game up again, and just to remember that the bar of making this more immersive is not actually as high as it might feel. It can be as easy as putting down a mat that kind of reflects just the environment you're in, and suddenly it pulls your players in so much farther than here's a markered wall. And there you go. Don't worry, I still use a markered wall. My players will attest to that. But if you really want to make a scene kind of grab someone, and put a little dungeon dressing, I like that term, kind of just around the table, it really, really does the trick.
Yeah.
And coming back to design ideas, back when I was still a Malifaux henchman, I was still hosting tournaments and stuff. If I found a terrain idea and then I try to pitch it to Alex, hey, I think this design could. I mean, that's how the Mushroom Forest started. This could look good with this kind of mat. What do you think? So usually during my Malifaux tournaments, I would have 10 to 14 tables. They're all my personal terrain, and then just all our mats just laid out. And then that was one of the big selling point from people coming in who doesn't even play the game, and they're looking at these terrains with all these mats, and they're like, "Whoa, where'd you get these?"
What is this?
I made them.
Yeah.
You've got Gislado talking about IKEA plants. That's a nice idea. I'll have to try. That. So IKEA as well as aquariums for any kind of. I've never actually tried it because I know Matt Mercer said similar things about using aquarium plants because you get those kind of colourful spreads, like alien plants or something like that. You just get something that's very otherworldly. I love
large
that idea.
jungle growth kind of thing. It's not small scale, and it's real easy then to apply. Just get your hot glue gun out.
So as more, because you sent me more. You were extremely generous in all the bits and pieces tonight. But this is also one of my favourites.
Yeah,
I love this.
That's the Forgotten Temple that you can actually connect to the Treasure Beach.
Yes, that's a couple steps in. The one that comes at the end of that pack that I mentioned earlier is just paths, and then this is the Forgotten Temple that's at the very end. And this one, we talked a little bit off air about how polarizing some elements of some mats are. This mat is the plaza version that has just a couple of broken bits and a couple of exposed bits of temple. this has another version that has a like dried up cracked basin like a fountain, and then another side that has like an altar. And some people really like one element or another or no elements like that. And so when we design things at the 4x6 range, that means that we then cut segments out. And so whether you're one of those people who likes more detail and less like something that might force a story, you can either have that story piece or you can just take it out and get the part of the map you like.
Yeah, I'm not even sure this is gonna pick up, but it was so nice. I mean, again, the level of detail here, you've almost got like a missing flagstone here. The roots are starting to spread out. They're spreading out from the trees and just moving along on top of the pathway. It's just phenomenal.
Thanks. Yeah,
It is lovely.
Being able to stretch and make things a little more realistic is like the first time we get a new mat. Like one of my biggest things as the production guy, like whenever I see a new mat roll out and it's like that moment of oh that looks good. Like, you know, that's one of my favorite moments of the month or the quarter is when we try to dial in new stuff.
And it tries its best to share it with me.
I try. Like, you know, pictures don't make it as amazing as it can feel, but yeah, this one was really tricky because it's just like, how are you going to depict snow on a white map? But I think the blue really, at least from my representation on the screen, it's kind of weak as far as like a gray, but it's really kind of a sky blue as far as the real color that comes through.
It's nice, especially with people are still playing through Rime of the Frost Maiden. It's so spot on for what is there. It is really, really nice. I mean, I'm going to compare it with... So the Platinum Beetle Grim Frost Maiden is basically whiteboard.
Oh, wow, okay.
You know, so that is theirs. It is... I'm not even sure. A couple of bushes, some stones, there's some trees or branches.
Oh no, the reflection.
Yeah, and you get a reflection. But this was lovely, and because Icewind Dale has so many moments when the idea is you're lost in a snowstorm. There is no sense of direction. There is no something on the horizon. You're literally right. We're gonna tie our party together, you know, and we're gonna spread out. If anyone's seen the thing, we're gonna tie a rope around us so we don't get lost, and off we trot, off we go.
Yeah.
And it's a blanket, snow above, snow below, and snow in our faces.
Hope for the best.
Exactly. And again, the size of the map is big enough. It's a 24 by 24. There's plenty of space to do things. You can do stuff where you can start in a corner of a map and wander off across the area and just do different things. It is really nice. And then the other one you sent, which is very close to that, is kind of like, I don't know, like a frozen tundra. Or you can use tundra. It as mist or something.
Yeah. You can, and I think it's not on camera right now, but the part of this map that I love the best is the red tree. Like the red tree.
Yes, I love that too. I love that too.
It's one of those moments that you're just like, where's the tree? But yeah, this guy is. I mean, the grass and the vegetation that kind of shines through.
I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to see if it's on there.
Oh, I mean, it should be. It's about probably 2 inches across. It's fine. But yeah, like at 2 foot. Remember, the 2x2 size is our smallest that we commonly do. We can do smaller, but we can also go like as large as someone might need. Like every once in a while, someone will order something like this, and it'll be like on a 4 foot by 8 foot print, and they'll be like, I don't know what game you're playing, but can I show up? Because I want to know what's going on in this space. Like, you know, whatever this adventure is, I need to be involved. And I think that's where Mario was going earlier with the comment of how long do you need it? Because it is roll media, you know, our maximum print size is 5 feet and a couple inches, but then by as long as you want. So whatever size you're going, we can get there generally.
And then there's also this one, which I think is this the grassland or the swampland?
That one is Green Hills.
Green Hills.
You can tell because the rocky protrusions are dry. The swamplands actually kind of has like a marshy river going through it with plants inside. So there's a lot of variation as far as the green ones we have. We have like 7 different grass type mats, but they all have kind of their own biome feel to it that make it non-repetitive. Because like, and we do that too with the deserts, because like when you envision desert, everyone kind of takes it to a different place. You've got the Badlands that is like the cracked earth, that it's just dirt, but it's so dry that it's cracking. Okay, and then you have the desert that's like it's all just powdered sand, and or hard packed sand. So we have a number of different variations in each biome, so you can kind of match your setting.
See, that's one of the things I like as well, is because like Pathfinder or Paizo have their flip maps. And D&D have their, if you're familiar with 3rd edition and 4th edition, they have the thing called the King's Road. And the King's Road is the same green element. You got a road pathway going through that. You might have a hill or 2. You might have some gravestones. And that's it. And the problem is, they use it so much. And if you own it, that's the only road you've got. So when you're on horseback, when you get your wagon, when you're going from one town to the next town, you put out the King's Road. So there's the road, there's the ambush. And as a player and as a DM, it's like, well, okay, there's only like 2 ways they can come at me now. Having something like this, which doesn't actually show a pathway, you create your own pathway. And again, you can just, if people think it's too kind of same, you just rotate it so things are in a different area. It's really, really nice to use. And again, highly detailed. I keep going on about that, but it's really
speaking of D&D mats, if any of our customers have the official D&D mats, like for example, that was done by I forgot his last name, Mike Schley or Mike. Yeah. Like if they have the high-res version of it, we can print it for them, and they could have the official D&D mat.
Or if they want their own on the Paizo, King's Road.
Again, but if you want it on a nice, because that's also paper based, and also the 4th editions, they were really kind of very thin poster paper, and they were folded, and you had to tear them out of the books. But again, having these which are wrinkle free is fantastic.
Now, if you've used them, I'll go ahead and give my disclaimer, because wrinkle-free asterisk. It's that one of those things that if you put them in your backpack and you put them with all your source books, and then you throw your backpack in the car trunk and you leave it there for 3 weeks because your party didn't get back together, when you come back, it will have a line there. But the thing is as I was talking about earlier with how you roll it, if you roll it with the image side out perpendicular to the problem, so if you creased a line and then you just like roll it so that line is inside the roll rather than parallel to the roll, with a little bit of just weighting or a little bit of warmth, it's plastic. It'll reset. You reset the memory on it, and it'll come back out flat and whatever. I just don't want people to think that, it's bulletproof. That's how you handle it. And so if you just roll it and let it sit, or warm it with your hands or the sun or whatever, then it'll just go back to normal. So
that's a nice way of looking at them, and you can reset the maps, because if you rip a poster map, you're done for. Like sellotape, no, not that way. Yeah. You can ruin them pretty bad. Right, and then we also have this is like any environment. This is the ocean.
Your white balance just went crazy. Yeah, that's our dark Caribbean.
Yeah.
And we have the 2 variants, the bright sunny Caribbean and the dark Caribbean. So you can kind of get that deep ocean feel versus the light one.
We have 3.
We have 3? Oh, we have Carnival Canal too, which was actually put together for TT Combat's Carnivale game. So if you want kind of that polluted green, and it actually has some nice orange elements to it that kind of give it this sunset kind of feel. That's one of the things we like to incorporate, not just like, it's blue because it's water. Like, kind of give it some coloration that might enhance a bit of story if you wanted it in there. Like, because, you give light effects and it just kind of pulls you in a little further.
Yeah.
And then we have...
There we go, that's the swamp.
Yeah, it's the swamp. And that's really, really nice.
If you look close, you can see inside the water, and there's actually like kelpy kind of plants.
Yeah.
Not kelp, but big leaf.
Again, some really nice details. Really
Just want to
nice
come back to
design.
something you said earlier, actually, about the new map designs. So, a question for Mario.
Hmm?
What designs are you working on at the moment, if you are working on any?
Well, we are working. Well, the last designs that I've finished, it hasn't been released yet. I mean, I don't know if Dave can tease it.
We can tease. Which
Um,
one are you talking about?
we're going back to our roots. We started off with Malifaux, and one of the famous location in Malifaux is a casino. Just in case that I'm gonna get flagged for copyright because it is a copyrighted name, I'm not gonna say the name of the casino or bar. It is, but it's one of the whole idea behind it is like a casino area, like more Western type casino, because Malifaux is set in that time period where steampunk, Wild West, and everything else still kind of works together.
Yeah,
that is the latest one, and we're gonna release it soon. And we've also worked with someone that told us like, hey, you might want to release Age of Sigmar 3rd edition because it's now a pre-measuring game. So
those are the things that by it becoming a pre-measuring game, that's what allows us to take the overlays and apply them. So you can put the deployment zones, the victory areas, and stuff like that on there. Our casino mat is kind of exciting because like doing indoor stuff, like, you know, there's sometimes you just don't want to have I've got the same trees, I've got the same, you know, rocks and features because you only have so much terrain at home. So doing something indoor both changes kind of the feel and the vibe of your game. And we've also got a little bit of work going on with a partner of ours on doing some terrain type stuff and some self 3D printable goods you might be able to populate your casino with. So there'll be a little bit more about that.
can we mention his name? I mean,
let's just leave it a mystery for now. But yeah, so and it looks really good. There's some really cool things that pull it all together and really kind of challenge the thought of, oh, your war game has to be outside in a giant space. And those are the kind of things that, like, we love those emails too, where it's like, I really want this kind of game. And sometimes we, you know, crowdsource. What do you guys feel is lacking in the world? And a casino was one we finally pulled off. So we're really excited for that.
Well, one of the reasons why I'm in a lot of different Facebook groups is like, what's good? Like, what can we do?
Yeah. What are people into? So that and the Age of Sigmar, like Age of Sigmar is a big one coming up because everyone knows it. If you do end up with a game, like I'll never forget when we had a game called Saga, which you may or may not know of. It is a bit more of it's not really historical, but it is set in Vikings and such like that. But like they're like, hey, no one ever supplies a 3x4 map for us. Like, can you do that? So that kind of is a big deal. I know I hit that button a number of times, so you know I'll flog that dead horse just one more time. But like if you know of a game or a need that you don't have, you let us know and we'll get you something you can play on.
That's cool. You mentioned I forgot what you mentioned. Something kicks off in my brain, but wanted to bring. Oh, I've lost the camera. That one is one of the maps that you sent, which is going to be used tomorrow. So basically, we are having our Badgers barbecue tomorrow. So we in the UK are basically coming out of lockdown. We haven't had a barbecue for a couple of years. The last summer we was able to. And one of the maps you sent was this kind of arena. Now this is gorgeous. We're going to do a battle royale. We're going to have just to have loads of fun, and this was lovely. I really enjoyed this map. You got the blood splatter and everything else in there. You got the shadow contrast from this building. You got flags and bits and pieces going up around the scene. You can even have your miniatures in the stands themselves, just watching you TPK everyone.
I mean, someone's got to throw rocks, right?
That as well, yeah. Throw something else in. There's some really nice stuff there. I love that as well. And again, if you could have some pillars, some barrels, some stuff you
Sure.
can hide behind. This is really, really nice. I like that.
You can make a grating out of like toothpicks or whatnot, and then you can have animals introduced up through the floor, or
You can use, one of those hair rollers as a spike pit. I mean, spike pillar.
Brilliant.
a column. Yeah, there you go.
It's
Nice.
How
literally
much mess you want to make, but you can put some sand on there as well, just to add the level of immersion.
the
There you go.
There's a bits of there you could do where for some reason your table game isn't going ahead. Right, okay, person number one, they're going to be 30 minutes late. Right, let's quickly kill each other. Battle royale.
Yep.
You just roll this out. Here you are. You ready? Just go.
It's also part of our standard. What is it? One of our city RPG packs, because that pack has a tavern, because everyone always starts in a bar.
Everyone always starts in a bar. Yeah.
It's got a bustling city, because you always end up outside somewhere, and then I think it has the arena mat in it. And so, because who doesn't eventually have some kind of a blood sport kind of event?
Definitely. And then the last one in the list is the wooden floor.
Yep.
And again, just like the cobblestones, any kind of building you're in, you don't have to worry about the size. This is not a massive pub. It can be anything you want it to be. It's fantastic. And again, I don't know if this will pick up, but the individual floorboards are all there, all marked out. Lovely. It's a huge amount of
like
space.
if you like to use that as like a tavern floor, and then outside is like a grassy area, you can just put a grassy area, like half of it, so you can have half bar, half outside.
Mat up against it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's these are going to get a lot of use. So again, thank you for being so kind and sending those over.
Sure.
Every time we'll use them, we'll make sure we get pictures and we'll stick them up all across socials so we can just shout out about them. But the quality of these is absolutely superb. I've loved looking at them. I've already had to go as well because, again, lockdown and stuff. I've been playing with my boy, teaching him all about D&D and Pathfinder, which is great. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is actually behind Mario right now, you've also got Sci-Fi Map. So is there, as well as a sci-fi, which is not just fantasy or environmental, you do sci-fi stuff, have you got things like corridors on spaceships or bulkheads, that kind of stuff? Because Steve is our resident sci-fi GM, and he runs Starfinder and things like that. And again, you kind of get their little mock-up of what the cockpit might look like. But we also play Alien. We're going to be, so can I tease it? I'll tease it. Very, very soon, we're going to be running Alien RPG with the guys who wrote it.
Sweet.
They're going to be GMing us. So we're going to be running down some corridors, hiding from aliens. And it's that kind of thing. You've got sci-fi maps. What is there anything new you're doing with those? Or do you do them in tandem with sci-fi? Is it
we do mostly things in tandem. But in terms of, let's say, corridors, that's what the limit that we kind of don't want to touch upon, because the corridors are going to limit, the map design to where, I have to have a T over here, or I have to have a cross section over here. So a lot of the people that we've talked to when it comes to like corridors, like Space Hulk and things like that, do what Matt Mercer does on his show, where he has pieces of trains, but then on the bottom of that, he puts our mat on it.
Yeah.
So that it just adds an extra ambient to it. So for example, the factory floor that I have on my background right here, maybe in that area where there's the more like a pathway, maybe that's where the corridor can be.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, we do sci-fi. I mean, we have stuff for Infinity. We have stuff for Marvel Crisis Protocol, which is more like not sci-fi. It's more like modern time.
Right. And one thing that stands out there is this is like the corridors in general are polarizing in one use in a lot of cases, depending on what you're doing. And, we want to make sure that people have a product they can use not just for one adventure. or if it's something that's going to be very pivotal to their adventure and it's going to stick around because it's like your ship or, you know, a frequent base that you go hang out in, then that's where we really invite people to get in touch with us and say, hey, this is the kind of corridor I want. Can you make factory floor look like this? Can you draw my corridor out like that? And like, yeah, it's not our stock bulk presentation, but you can get exactly what you want because we're print to order. So if you have a design that you want, then we do custom work and we just do it by Mario's time. Because as he's laying out and doing proofs with you, then like that's the time we already have the design. Yeah. And then you pay for the mat by size, and then however long it takes to take your instructions and get them to your approved design, that's the only increase in price, is how much time it takes there. So like a lot of times if it's really simple, it'll just be a couple of bucks because it's like, oh, I want you to make the green, like, oh, here's a good example. We had a guy who wanted the lava mat, the molten crust, and he wanted it to be green fire for this arcane ritual that was going on. So cool. Mario just color shifted it. The guy was like, yep, great. And it's a minimum charge of like $6 for the first 15 minutes of time. So if you have something like that in a sci-fi that you want something cultivated, that is exactly what you want, let us know.
That's cool.
So I do find you struggle to find sci-fi backgrounds. So when we was at the Games Expo the other week, I did buy 2 neoprene mats from another game system that was selling the mats separately.
Sure.
Just to use as generic sci-fi backgrounds because it is difficult to get them.
Yeah. And like so that's where Steve, where we, yeah, we value you as a person in that GM kind of role, and like say, hey, you know, I really could use these kind of things, and I don't think your site brings a lot to the table in that regard. Like, that's a lot of the times where Mario and I's bias affects us because, like, we don't play in that sphere as much.
Yeah.
So we don't recognize that we're lacking in that catalog. So, like, if you see something, you're like, hey, I love your material, I love your HD, can you make something in this vein? Like, well, absolutely. Thanks for pointing it out. And, like, we'll consider that as far as what's coming up next, because we don't know if people are really digging on stuff or they're just like, oh, they don't have anything pass. So, yeah, send us an email.
I will do, especially for our Alien game. That's yeah, because I bought up a lot of old Alien minis from a gaming system that's no longer made anymore. So you're trawling around different game stores and eBay and stuff like that. So I have a lot of Alien minis, a lot of dungeon dressing. What I don't have is background.
You die brilliantly clutching a grenade, saying not like this. No.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just checking in with Steve. We had a few questions in live chat. Anything else?
I think they all got answered.
We haven't missed any.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
that's
I
cool.
don't believe so.
We have gone slightly over the hour, folks, and we can wrap it up there. Mario, Alex, is there anything else you wanted to kind of cover, shout out? We covered some sneak peek stuff, but is there any kind of projects you can tease? Do you like, you know, anything else coming out?
Alex already teased some 3D print stuff.
Yeah, we're interested in stuff like that. Being able to facilitate kind of a total package for people. We're looking at other collaborations with cartographers, or if you know an interested party and want to throw your hat in the ring, we like guest designers and whatnot that we can feature and partner with. And so we can look for stuff like that. And really kind of, I think the closest one is going to be the casino stuff and the AOS, but that's what we've got.
Cool. Okay, guys, and from that we will wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining us live. If you're watching this on YouTube, do go check these guys out. We'll have all the links below in the descriptions for their stuff. If you've been watching it live with us, thank you very much. You would have seen the links in the live chat, so do go and check them out. We've just had a subscription right at the end there for 11 months. Thank you, Twitchy. You missed the show, but it's okay. It'll be on YouTube very soon. Or you can, well, actually, once it finishes, you can watch it back on Twitch. That's perfectly fine. It will be there for, what, 14 days? Something like that. But, again, Mario, Alex, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey.
Steve, do you want to sort out a quick raid while we do that?
Yeah.
And
I will do that now.
You will be seeing, we've got 2 campaigns that I know of that I'm currently planning for the end of this year, which will be, which takes us into next year. We've got 2 big campaigns planned. One's D&D, one's Pathfinder, and we'll be using these maps. You get to see them in action, so I get to use them. But also, I'll send you. If you're watching us on socials, you'll see all of our barbecue 2021 photos there, and I'm sure you're going to see lots of photos of this stuff out there as well. Royal Rumble on Battle Royale. I'm just really looking forward to it. Right. Until then, we will see you guys soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
Dave. Thanks, Steve. You guys are amazing.
Cheers.
Thank
Hey
you.
guys.
Bye.